everybody. Welcome to a summer 2014 S.W.A.T review. My name is Kate, otherwise known as Narataki.
And I'm Alan, otherwise known as Hisui.
We are from ReverseThieves.com. You can go there to get other S.W.A.T reviews, as well as our monthly Speakeasy podcast, and 3+ blog posts every week.
This time, we are looking at Argevollen from Studio Xebec, and it is streaming on Crunchyroll.
It's one of the mini mecha offerings of the season.
And we start in the middle of a wall. There is essentially a great wall of mecha China keeping out the invading army. And it's, been successful for many years. So, of course, as Kate correctly predicted.
Well, of course, when it starts off with, some old dude, no one has ever broken through the wall since it was... I was like, okay, well, obviously it's going down right now. At first, I was a little confused about which side we were seeing. I wasn't, I don't know, I thought that the first episode was a little confusing, but mostly just because, uniforms and all that, it's sort of like, okay, who are all these people? And there was a lot of people that we saw very quickly, but it kind of works itself out as the episode goes along. We're mostly, in the first episode, spending time on the side of the wall.
I don't think we've seen anybody from the other side.
They had those blue uniforms, and they were getting that speech from, the guy who was like, let's liberate these people from their wealthy suppressors or whatever. But, so I thought, okay, those are the good guys, quote unquote, because it's clear, it's not going to be so clear cut. But then we switch, and we're actually following a troop on the side of the wall, which is being attacked.
Yeah, but the problem is our main characters are really out in kind of the periphery guard. Apparently, for some reason or another, commander or maybe their whole unit is has a bit of a stigma, and so
we don't know what they've done to kind of garner some ire, but the captain is clearly aware of it. He definitely seems pretty detached, though, from the, maybe the ideals of the government, because he's like, oh, let me guess, this is what they said when they sent us a message about, so...
I think he knew the guy who was in charge of the wall, who was at the brig brass, and he's like, let me guess, he said, beat, we're done, don't stick around and die for this stupid cause. And he's like, thanks for that, buddy. And let's get the heck out of here and get to somewhere that's defensible. Because the hot-blooded main character is like, we can go back and save some of our comrades. And everybody else in the crew is like, no, we're just going to die like all the people who are currently getting killed over there. There's a reason that guy told us to get the heck out of here.
Although the main brass didn't want them to do that.
Yeah.
So the colonel is clearly also kind of disillusioned the ideals of the government. Our main guy, he's fresh out of school, so he hasn't really been in a battle. He's only been in simulators and that sort of thing. But the makeup of the unit is seems like 3 mechs and then sort of backup for all of them. And the main, the leader of the mech team is a woman, I don't remember her name. And so she doesn't seem pleased to have this sort of newbie underfoot.
They're basically trying to get somewhere defensible, and all of a sudden, their radar crew says, oh, there's gunfire, somebody should check it out. So they send the experienced lady and the hothead out, and they see a civilian transport with very light escort being attacked, and everybody wants them to leave, but Hothead's like, no, we can't abandon civilians, so he rushes in like he was porn.
Battle ensues, and that sort of takes up the latter half of the episode, but I don't know, I didn't get a good sense of it yet. I felt like after I watched it, there were some interesting things about it, but I didn't find the characters particularly engaging, but then I felt like, well, maybe it needs an episode or two to really ramp up what's going on, because we don't really have a good sense of anything yet. It definitely seems like a story that has sort of a complicated history and that sort of thing.
Because all the standard grunt mechs seem very slow, very deliberate. If anybody's played Mech Warrior, they pilot a lot like that. And they don't even have jump jets. These kind of slow movements. And they kind of get this, the whole point of this first episode, the civilian thing is transporting this kind of new, kind of more Gundam-y Ava-like suit that can, move around what you kind of expect from modern mecha, as opposed to that kind of lumbering style that you'd see in old American tactical games. Obviously, that's like, this is the way the war is going. But I thought that was worth mentioning.
Why wouldn't it be worth mentioning?
I feel like most of the time we don't discuss the mecha in that much detail.
No, I think it makes sense. The other side, the blue team, I'm gonna call them the blue team because the team we were watching mostly was the green team. The blue team also had some new mechs that were kind of reminded me of the ones in Aikido the Exiled, because they kind of move in almost like a spider-like, four-legged fashion. And that's sort of what turns the tide for them.
Unlike the slow lumbering mechs, they can jump, so they just basically jump over the wall and go where the defense is weak, and that's kind of how they lose the battle there. So obviously, both sides are getting these kind of new, more agile mecha.
I guess the thing is, though, is that the thing I found most interesting in the episode were the mecha, and generally that's bad if it's coming from me. Like, I mean, a lot of mecha fans, that's what they're concentrating on, but, like, I like mecha shows, but it has to be more than that, and I felt like the thing I was most interested in was like, oh, that's cool, like, that's a cool looking design. Oh, that's my concentration.
There was a few things worth mentioning. You did notice that it seemed like in our main team, the male-female balance was pretty good.
Yeah, there was a lot of women doing all kinds of jobs. Like, I liked that. I liked that it was, like, a balanced, and it wasn't, like, a harem of, like, cute girls all in the military doing, like, whatever. And it wasn't, like, all the women were afraid of combat or anything like that. Like, everybody seemed to have a different...
It was an equitable 50-50 split.
There was more guys, but, like, as far as, like, the main cast, there's, like, a peripheral cast, but it seemed balanced.
My only hesitant thing, and maybe this is just flashbacks to something, unfair flashbacks, the girl they saved from the civilian transport kind of reminded me of Nino Purpleton, but, I mean, it's kind of hard to live up to the infamy that is the most horrible woman in all of Gundam. Hopefully, she will not go that way. I don't feel like it really hooked us. I think, like you said, we'll probably give it another episode or two. But, yeah, I feel like most of the time we're like, yeah, mecha show. Or like, boo, mecha show. This time we're like, oh, mecha show. Alright, see you guys next time.